Hello and welcome to a very special Moth News Live on what's today? It's not Monday because it was a bank holiday. It's Tuesday. It's the 22nd of April. My name is Keith Walsh and this is Moth News Live. This is a podcast style chat. A conversation that we're going to have today is a challenging, important, and sadly far too common, yet rarely spoken about in public. We're talking about grooming. Not in the way it's often framed involving children, but in the way it can happen to adults, particularly vulnerable young men and women. And I mean, it could be older men and women too, and often at the hands of older, powerful people. Let's just say, because somebody will come out and say it's not all men, it's usually men. Our guest is Ali. Ali is a model and an artist based in London. He's come forward to share his personal experience of manipulation and grooming, not to relive it, but to help others understand how many victims don't come forward, why they self blame, and how society's response often re traumatizes them instead of offering support. This is not about naming names, this is about understanding the pattern, the silence, the shame, and how these power dynamics work. If you've ever wondered why someone didn't speak up sooner or why they acted like everything was okay while it was happening, this conversation is for you. Ali, how are you? How's London? What's the weather like? I really like your background there. I need to do some work on mine.
Thank you. It's just plants. 99% plants.
You've got a gift though for showing them, presenting them in a way.
Composing them, I guess. Yeah, I try to make it look as natural as possible, as if they had
It,
grown in that way. I have
it's a
prickly stick insects too. They're roaming around on the hanging one there.
Oh really?
Yeah, they're free to roam and they eat. They actually can eat that plant, so it's part of their diet. So I don't even need to feed them. And because they're hanging off the ceiling, they're safe from my cat.
Oh my god,
Which,
I love
yeah.
stick insects. Um, so okay, just make sure that your center because your frame's like yeah, you can
Oh,
see
is this
yourself
how
anyway.
people see it in the
Yeah, they'll see it. People can see you now. You're centered much
right?
better.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is a
Thank you for having me.
really important conversation. And I know I mean, I saw your first video that you made, and I thought this is really interesting because I know about this. I know about this phenomenon. Let's call it a phenomenon.
Mm.
Terrible phenomenon from women, from female friends I have, and I think this is a really important conversation because I hadn't really factored in men in this conversation. And just before anybody jumps jumps on this, because they always do, to say it's not all men. Okay, but it's usually men. It's nearly always men. So I'm just glad that you're here. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Can you take us back to the time when all of this started? Not to discuss names or specifics, but what was
Mhm.
going on in your life at the time when you met this person?
It's funny because I actually met this person 5 years ago. We matched on Tinder, and that was at the very start of lockdown. I remember it being, I think, within the first week or the second week, and I was over the moon because that person quickly confirmed that it was them by following me from their official Instagram. We started having video chats soon after, and they were always sort of in a very friendly way, and especially happening in lockdown when you're cut out from the rest of the world for the first time in your life and everything seems like a horror film.
Mhm.
You're very happy to then all of a sudden have the opportunity to chat to one of your favorite stars. And the only reason I swiped right on Tinder was because I wanted to see if it was him, not because I was in any way romantically interested. That's how it started 5 years ago. But then if you fast forward, I got into a relationship very quickly after the lockdown eased, and then I never heard from him again. Well, we it sort of fizzled out. We didn't. There was no falling out or no hard line of no contact anymore. But it fizzled out, and then fast forward 4 years, I break up with my partner. I start a new job, and I move into a new place. The new job goes well for a few months, but then I actually get bullied out of that job. It was a very, very big role for me. It was very overwhelming. A lot of admin work, and on top of it, I was getting bullied. I wasn't getting the breaks I needed, so I left the job because my GP gave me a sick note. So after leaving this job, that was another job that I've really, really secretly loathed because I'm an artist and I always wanted to be an artist, but I've always felt sort of forced into this, being forced to work in a coffee shop or a restaurant to make a living and not being able to really live off what I want to do because there's never any support for artists like me. So that's the situation where I'm in, and then I'm decided that I'm gonna focus all my energy on my artwork and that I'm never ever in my life going to go back into hospitality. That was my main mantra in life at that time. And then soon after, I reached out to this person. They still followed me on Instagram, so I messaged them, but I WhatsApped them because I know that it's impossible to reach out to people on Instagram sometimes. And they instantly responded. That was on a Saturday night. And we got chatting again immediately as if no time had passed, and it quickly turned into this daily contact again of chatting, voice notes, video notes from when he was on tour, from the backstage, the dressing rooms. I have all of it still here on my phone and on my computer. So that grooming involves a certain tactic that involves a long-term manipulation, and that a lot of that happens online in their spare time when it's comfortable for them to access you. And so, yeah, the way he found me was basically unemployed and very, very eager to promote my art. And that's what I asked him for help with in the first message that I reached out with again after all of these years.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting what you say. Like the part of the grooming is that obviously when they're alone, when they're not at work, when they're not with other people, they'll contact you, and it's probably then like it's fits and starts. It's not like a constant all day conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But they will always maintain this very, very frequent daily contact, even though they will never actually call you and have a conversation with you. It'll be via voicemails, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and when this relationship began, so there's kind of almost two beginnings, really. So there was lockdown and then post lockdown. Did you feel Was there anything about it that made you feel safe, or did it feel special, or?
It felt special, as in me at that time. I was putting a lot of myself out there on social media as well for the first time in my life, really, because I'd never been that sort of person. But I increasingly saw, with the rise as well of AI art and influencer lifestyle. At that point, I was like, you know what, if other people can do that, I can do that too. So I started to post daily stories, and quite a few of them were intended to be funny. A lot of them didn't find them funny, turns out. I thought they were, and so did this person. And he made me feel seen and heard, and I actually believe that he found me funny and smart and interesting and talented, all of those things. I thought he wanted to help me because he saw something in me. That's how it made me feel in the beginning. And there wasn't even any sexual things ever, really. When we spoke, it was always very friendly, which is why I trusted him.
So you were chatting. He was like responding to your funny. I'm sure they were funny posts in a positive way. You're like, oh, this is cool. This guy likes me. We should say. I mean, you did briefly mention. I hadn't mentioned, but this is a well-known person that you're talking about, and we have to be really careful. I want to be really careful here not to say anything, name, or any a location even, and I know you will as well, but I'm saying it out loud to remind myself to be really, really careful here. But
I have to be constantly careful as well, and to remind myself, because but I am hyper vigilant right now.
Good.
Don't worry, I think I got it.
It's important, not for the person but for you, that we don't, if anybody goes and I will send people to your Instagram and stuff.
Thank you.
That you've been very careful not to mention names, and we need to keep it like that because we don't want you to, I mean, the last post you mentioned, litigation and the costs of that, and usually in these situations, one person's quite powerful, has some money, and the other person doesn't. And this is like, there's a reason behind that, but we'll continue. But yeah, I just want to remind myself to be really careful. A lot of people think grooming only happens to children. How would you describe what grooming looked like in your experience as an adult?
It's interesting because I think that groomers who groom adult people deploy the exact same technique that groomers use that groom children. It's the exact same thing. So you're being manipulated into thinking this person is good, that this person has your best interest at heart, that this person will look out for you, that they will help you, that they will protect you even. All of these things that you expect from someone who is, in a way, bigger, older, wiser than you.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't differ that much from the way it happens. And it's, as an adult, you would say, and I'm not going, like, I always knew that there was a risk involved, that he might want something sexual from me in return. I was aware of that risk. As an adult, you are. But if this person never shows any signs of this in all of your previous conversation, and this previous conversation has gone on for years, and then all of a sudden you're in their bedroom and they come out of the bathroom naked, all of a sudden it's as if they pull the rug under you, and so it's not you can't really judge your natural reaction at this stage, because it's so unexpected that you're really you panic, you freeze, and you just dissociate in a way.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting, because exactly what you're saying, when a child is being groomed, they won't in anywhere in their mind think that this could become sexual. There could be, because as you grow older, and especially as an adult, you've seen things, you've been places, you're aware of stories, you've heard about child grooming, and you know how it happens. So as a fully aware adult out in the world, there's always that worry. And I'd imagine, I think less so for me, and I don't think that men understand. And I think, would you classify yourself as a gay man or bisexual, or do you want to be? Yeah. So I would say similar for young gay men, right? And I don't think middle class white Western men understand that this is a constant fear. It's constantly in your head. Women, and I can't speak for you, but I presume there's a lot of similarities, like going for a walk, going out in the dark to get your car after work, leaving a friend and then walking a little bit up the road. I know of friends of mine who like carry their car keys in their hand like a weapon, like, so they've got the keys. Like, we men do not live in the same world as women.
No.
Men do not live in the same world as young gay men. And it's not that you or women, or you as a young gay man, you're not putting yourself in a different place. You're not living in a different world, but you're encountering people with different intent, with malicious intent, and people that I would not encounter, or if I do, rarely encounter. And I would very rarely think that I'm in danger of anything sexual, maybe physical. I've had occasion where I've been mugged or almost mugged, or people have tried to mug me, and these things happen. But we do not understand that the world that women live in, and the world that I'd imagine young gay men live in, it is a different dimension. It's a different world. It's important to say that. But it's the same. You describe it as the same as a young person being groomed, and I find this really fascinating. And that's why I want to labor on it. But without a young person will not think that there's sex coming, or that there's a threat of sex. And not that you're thinking that this is that this is part of you're not saying that, oh, this was always part of the conversation. What you're saying is that there's always something in the back of your mind
Exactly.
in every encounter.
Exactly.
I just thought it was good to clarify that, because people
no,
might.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because yes, the experience is very different. So thank you for acknowledging that.
And actually, it just occurred to me having this conversation with you and me contacting you and us having conversations, I can imagine there's even a part of you thinking, I wonder, does this guy want more than just a conversation? Do you know what I mean? And I'm saying that just reflecting on everything that you must be thinking about when you put yourself out there.
I mean, after what happened 2 days ago, yes, I'm not gonna lie, but everything crosses my mind at this point. So no, I'm really glad that you've contacted me, but I'm super very, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and we haven't met, and we probably won't ever meet, and that was by design.
Shame. Well, if you're in London, you have to let me know. We have to go for a coffee.
I'm really boring.
I don't think you are.
No, it'd be great. Let's be friends. But I do think, I just thought it was very important, because I think people, and they're always looking for something. People are always looking to listen to the conversation and trying to find something they can misinterpret, or they internalize as something. Well, actually, he said that's not what you're saying. You were saying that this is always a thought in your head in every encounter.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting to see also, because I've gone viral now with this video, which again was really my last resort, because no one was hearing me before that. The reactions of some people, it's very, very clear that they are projecting their internal thoughts onto me without even any idea, or haven't even listened to the video. They're already making judgments, and they are saying things that I clearly in the video talked about, but they didn't listen. They just go straight to commenting whatever is on their mind. And it's really telling, really, if you think about it.
Totally, because they're totally projecting and
Exactly.
totally unaware of it. And anybody that has done any work with a therapist or any sort of mindfulness or awareness work, you're just looking at going, sorry, buddy, you need to go and have a think about things for yourself. And that goes right through society to, like, the people talking about, how children dressed in a certain way are being sexualized, and you can't explain to adults that, so you're the person who's looking at this and seeing something sexual, because they just won't accept it. But that's a sort of a massive gray area as well. Anyway, were there any initial red flags, or I think that's a difficult question. Was there anything that when you look back now and you think, actually, and this might be helpful, I'm only asking this question because it might be helpful to other people who are in the early stages of a friendship like this, or an encounter like this, or they've just started chatting to somebody and they're feeling really, oh, this person's cool, they're famous, they've got power. Oh, I feel really flattered. Thinking back now, what are some of the red flags that they should be looking out for?
It's a really, really interesting question, because obviously it was very, very hard to spot the red flags, and I didn't spot them at the time, but there was a few things where I looked back at later and I was like, oh, and I remember at that time they didn't make any sense, but looking back later, finding out really, oh, this is what happened, now everything makes sense. So if you ever feel like this person is asking you a lot of questions and going really in depth about your life, I call them security questions, because I feel groomers do profile you, and they will. The more you tell them about your private life, the better. So if they ask about your parents, if you have brother, those kind of questions, the ones that really hit hard and reveal a lot about you. Those I would be really wary of.
And you've called them security questions.
Security check, yeah. For them, because that way they secure that you're a good victim. That's what I mean by that.
What was your upbringing like? Who are you close to? your family around.
Exactly. The more vulnerable you are, the better. So so it's their checklist. And if you see like, oh, they're asking me a lot of questions, maybe beware of that. But other than that, like, I went into it completely blind. And to be honest, I knew at one point that I was being abused, and that's when I cut it off, because I only gave him I gave him a warning after the first time, and then when he did it the second time around, that's when I cut him out. And that's when I started feeling abused. I knew at that point that he overstepped the boundary, because I had made that boundary clear. After he overstepped it for the first time, he still didn't respect it, and that's how I knew he is a bad person who doesn't respect my boundary. And that at that point, I knew I was being abused, but I didn't know that I had been profiled meticulously over years, probably.
So you mentioned, so you would have mentioned, say, financial hardship in your conversation. You would have spoken to
That
him about.
was one of the things I opened the conversation with last time. I put pretty much my entire life experience into one message and asked him for help. So he knew I was broke. He knew I had childhood trauma. He had known this already in the 5 years, because back then he had also gotten all of that information from me. And this is information that's very easy to bond over, you know.
Yeah, of course, because any of those things you're talking about, I'm sitting there going, shit, that's kind of like, if you're in a new relationship, friendship or otherwise, there is a kind of a getting to know you period, isn't there?
Mm. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So it's almost like foolproof in a way, because you just think, oh, this person's really cool. They want to know about me. I'm I'm a I know myself. I share a lot. I get deep very quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Same. Yeah.
And if I click with somebody, or if I feel I'm clicking with somebody, I'm like, this is great. I love chatting to this person.
Same.
And this
I'm an
is,
open book in that way.
yeah, and that's long before anything even, like, for me personally, I think it might be my autism, ADHD, whatever, but it's always friendship. A relationship of a sexual nature or anything other than that, that's not even in the conversation at the start.
Mm.
Um,
You're right.
so these things, you're quite vulnerable in that you shared, and also there's a vulnerability about you, because it can be emotional, it can be financial, it can be otherwise, but that's how somebody can become a target, somebody like yourself, because these are like, check, 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 I'm asking the question, check, ding, 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 yes.
Exactly.
And then I suppose trust was built. Did you feel like there was a trust built, and were there things looking back now, because, and any of the questions I'm asking, it is kind of in hindsight, because obviously you don't see these things at the time, and the reason we're having this conversation is that people might notice them at the time if they watch this. Do you know what I mean? So how did you feel trust was built, and how do you think that was kind of used against you then? You let your guard down, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So I let my guard. I don't. A lot of people will say that I don't really have a guard, and my guard will come up once you show me that I need to put it up more than I used to be quite protective of. I used to be very shy and reserved and a loner, but I changed that. So I try to speak to as many people as possible now. And since the last year and a half, really, it's been that whatever comes to my mind, I usually will say it. I actually just forgot, what was the question?
Just that the trust was built, and how is
Yes,
that trust ultimately used against you? But it's that you let your guard down.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
as you say, you're a guard down early
right,
type person
right.
anyway, like myself.
Exactly, my God, exactly. So, but yeah, so basic. I definitely believe that all of this information, for example, during that time now where the second time we got in touch, I also lost my dad. Didn't lose him, but fell out with him massively and blocked him from everywhere for the first time in my life. But it's been a long time coming, so he knew that was going on at the same time. So no family my family is very small. I only have my mom, and we're not in touch on a regular basis. So I don't have a family support network, for example.
Would you say, sorry to cut in there, would you say he tried to portray a bit of a father figure?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't say father figure. I would almost say grandmother figure. It was so far removed from anything that I wouldn't even call it father figure.
Yeah. So I totally get it. Like that lovely
Yeah.
old
If you know what I
grandmother.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying.
Hmm.
Which is actually better than a father figure, a grandmother figure, much better, much more effective, I'd imagine, on a serious note. But um, you talked about, and you've spoken to me, and the two videos on your TikTok and Instagram, you talked about the shame and confusion. So shame and confusion, especially because you didn't show signs of distress at the time, because it does take, and it took you a while to understand what happened or what is happening. Can you talk about how that complicated your understanding of what was happening?
So when you're being groomed and you're meeting this famous person and you tell all your friends about it and you go meet and you're super excited because you're like, oh, they're going to help me with my career, and oh, I'm probably going to be famous in 2 weeks and blah, blah, blah. And you get a bit, maybe you get a bit carried away sometimes, but you make these sort of comments, and then, this person sexually assaults you in their home, basically, the second they have you in front of them. And you didn't see it coming, your friends didn't see it coming, you're ashamed for even the minute, because obviously you're an adult. You're like, you could just turn around and walk away and close the door. That's not really how it works. Not when you have the opportunity of a massive career dangled in front of you. I never was interested in dating this person, so it's not like I wanted to leech off of their lifestyle. Never. I've been very clear about wanting to push and help with my own career. So I was also never after any relation thing, and I was clear about that as well. Again,
it's really important for me to stress this, because like things, as I talk to you, things even for me are becoming more clear. For anybody that's sort of like looking at this and listening to this and thinking, well, he was using him, so this is no different.
Yeah.
To two men, four men on a golf course talking business and what they're going to do for each other with this, portfolio or this job or this, we're going to buy off you and you're going to do this. And this is how things are done. So this is how things get done. So when you're talking about, this guy, he thinks my stuff is really good. He says it's really good. I'm getting the impression that he's going to help me, because that's the impression he's giving me. He's responding well to my stuff, and I've always believed in my stuff, and now I've found a way. He knows people. He's got, he's got contacts, and I studied drama in college, so I know about, like, when I was in college, it was like contacts. And it was drummed into you. So if you can get a good contact, everything could change. So this is not, you weren't using him in any other way than every business person, every artist, every performer.
Yeah, I'm being very, very open about it. I'm saying, hello, can you please repost this so that I can get more Instagram follows? It's not the same as operating completely in the dark and manipulating and brainwashing someone into believing someone you're not and sexually exploiting them. It's a different ball game, I would say, in my books.
Yeah, totally. And
if it makes you happy that I also used him, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, but I'm trying to clarify at every point, because I'm listening to myself as a.
No, I wasn't saying that about you. I was saying that person that would leave those sort of comments on my profile, and
But you are saying about me, because these are the thoughts that me as a white middle-aged Irish man would have. So I'm thinking, what's coming up for me here? What's coming up for me here? Okay, so let's address that, because that's something that's going to be, and I'm sure has been put to you. So let's just talk about that for a moment and go, no, hang on a second. This is no different If there's four guys going out to play floorball and they're going to talk business, not one of them is expected to go back into the locker room and turn around and one of them's going to be naked and expecting something sexual to happen. There's no difference. I just want to stop things and say that. So you're telling your friends, going, "Oh, this guy's really cool. We're having fun. We're chatting. He's really supportive. Really likes my stuff. I think it's like, I think shit's going to happen for me." You're telling your friends, and then something happens. And how do you suddenly then go back to your friends and go, "Actually, I think that guy that I was like gushing about as a friend and as a confident and as a supporter is a bad guy."
Yeah, or be like, "Oh, actually, no, he didn't like any of my amazing artwork and comedic skills and pictures and everything I've been posting. No, he just wanted my body, and I fucking gave it to him." Sorry, I hope this is okay.
No, it's absolutely fine. Like, exactly.
So that's exactly, you describe it. That's just something you won't do necessarily. You might tell your very closest friends, but to the wider population, you will just try and maintain the image that you're friends with this person now and they're helping you because they like you. And that's kind of like your first thought that goes to your mind. And the initial sort of, the thing is, I was always sort of very clear that this wasn't going to happen again. And when it did happen again, that was then for sure the last time. So yeah. I knew that I wasn't going to enter this vicious cycle of having to lie to my friends and starting this sort of double life. I would have never done that. But yes, for the short time it happened, I didn't let my friends in on it, which is the reason now some of them feel funny about my motives with this. They're not 100% sure, like, "Oh, why did you come out with this after and not before? Or when it happened, you seemed fine. You were even joking about it." Yes, because I was fully joking about it. But that's a trauma response, really. And
of course. But even that you say, like, "Oh shit, no, he didn't like me or my stuff or my sense of humor."
Because it's also
like that's a big U-turn to have to make.
Yeah, it's a big disappointment, not like on a personal level as well, because you're tricked into believing that you're special and you're talented because this person must know, because they're so famous and big and they've seen it all. If they think I'm special, then I must be special. And then when all of a sudden you realize, oh no, they literally didn't give a damn about what was inside. They just wanted my body. And all along, and that's also, it puts a whole spin, because in the beginning you think they're just delusional. How could this person ever think that I would even be remotely interested in having sex with them? And you
on top of, why did I even think that they just were interested in my art and my sense of humor?
It sort of, it just devalidates everything. It's like you're already on the floor and then you get a kick.
And it does, I mean, for anybody that hasn't had this experience, I know from talking to other people, mostly women up to this point, but all these thoughts and realizing something and remembering something and going, "Oh shit, that was that. Oh shit, that was," all the pieces start falling into place, but very slowly, because you can't necessarily allow them to fall into place at the same time, because that'd be too much.
Yeah, true.
What was the reaction like from those close to you then when you started trying to open up, and what impact did that then have on you? Because that's almost like a doubling down then if it's a negative reaction.
It was interesting. So I think the initial reaction once I realized what it was that was actually happening to me, and I started telling people about it, like, I think this guy abused me. I think this guy has been doing this all along. I think he's doing it to more people. They started to be a bit like, "Come on now, Ali, like, does he really deserve this? Or are you just in one of your moods?" That was the initial reaction, which then made me, and this, maybe with my closest friends, this lasted for maybe a week or two, where I got those reactions, and I actually made the conscious decision to say to them, look, this is nothing. I know you don't mean any harm. I know you're probably just worried about me, but I cannot be around you if you're not really on my side or not on the same page as me, because that way, because it is already such a confusing situation and you're constantly questioning yourself. If then on top of it you have friends around who tell you this man is innocent or nothing happened, I just wanted to make sure that I stay within my own truth, which is the only truth I know. And that's why I actually had to not cut out, but just put some people on the side, on the back burner for a bit, politely, and letting them know that they haven't done anything wrong, but that is just that what I needed at the time. So that's how it started, the isolation.
So, you,
Then
so the,
some
yeah, yeah, because
6%.
you end up just feeling completely isolated, and almost like it's turned back on that. Then you become almost like this other person becomes a victim of you, and your friends are people you tell are almost saying, "Well, you're trying to manipulate this whole situation because you want something out of it," and that, or
Yes,
you feel rejected or something, and you're trying to like make it that. That's what
exactly.
happens then.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And I never saw it coming, but it happened from my closest friend, within my closest friend circle. Um, and it's then sort of when I started to realize what was going on. But at that point, I still had no idea the scale of it and how manipulative he was and how prolific. Um, Putting all the pieces back together, it made so much sense. All of those little things he said, those little security checks, and every single situation where before I was like, why did this just happen? What is this? And there was many of these situations made sense later. Um, but at that point, I already feel like I am a victim here and no one is really here for me. So at that point, I decided, okay, if people want to reach out to me, they can. And then after realizing, making posts, and I was quite outspoken about this whole thing on social media as well. Not necessarily this thing, but I was raped before this in 2018, and this is a story I had always kept a secret because out of fear of being judged. But during my experience with this man, I released this story, and that was also because I had blocked my dad, and so I didn't have that fear of his judgment. Was the one I was fearing the most, because being victim shamed by your own dad is a whole new level. So I just said, I kept it quiet. But that time I released it, and then the reaction of this person, that also gave away a lot, because they did not like me
Give me one
coming
second.
forward with something like that.
We got football training here, so
I'll
life
get
goes
some
on.
biscuit in the meantime.
Yeah. He doesn't care. He don't care. He's got football. Um, so I want to say something. I'm going to try and say it. And it's not necessarily a question. You don't have to respond because I think you have to be really careful. But you talk about security questions and them building up a picture and a profile of you, but also there was an element of them explaining things about themselves to you, about their vulnerabilities,
Mm.
about their life, and maybe how the public might view them and difficulties they might have in reading cues and, oh, I didn't quite understand what was being said or what wasn't being said. So there is, and we don't have to talk about this, but I do want to just interject with that they also build up a profile of themselves, which is all part of this overall picture. So then they can then go back, well, actually, I don't actually really, I'm not great socially and often don't pick up on cues. And this is me trying to say this in a way that doesn't give away anything, but I think it's really important to say that is also a big part of it. And maybe we should just kind of move on from that.
I'm very glad you said that, and I won't be adding any detail, but
Yeah.
yes, a lot of work goes into maintaining a public image to distract from the fact that you're an abuser and a groomer. And yeah, I'll leave it at
And
that.
I guarantee you, like I feel, and I don't know about what life is like for a young gay man. I don't know what life is like for young women out there. I have a better understanding of women because I have a daughter who's 22. I have a lot of female friends. I have sisters. I talk to them. This happens all the fucking time. We're talking specifically about someone who is in the public eye, somebody who is well known, somebody who has power and has money. And very often it's much easier for them, or that, they'll use this power. They get in, a lot of them get into this whole business because, it's a way of, it's like kind of joining the Catholic Church in Ireland in the
Exactly.
40s and 50s. See, bud. But this happens all the time.
Yeah.
All of the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big the power, how wealthy they are. Women are dealing with this all the time. I presume young gay men are dealing with this all the time as well.
Yeah.
So it's so men have become very good at doing this. So
I think it's interesting because obviously, I'm a massive feminist, and women are very vulnerable and a lot more vulnerable than men, I believe, as in, not to generalize.
yeah, no, it's true.
But in this specific crime, I think obviously women are more vulnerable to fall victim to it in the first place. But I think once it affects men, it might be much harder for them to realize what's actually going on than it would be for a woman. And to really put your finger on it to realize, because men have a tendency to just shove things under the rug as well. When these things happen, I can imagine how a lot of guys would deal with it by just shoving it under the rug real quick and never talking about it ever again. And I think this is also why not many victims come forward, and why these crimes are repeated and repeated and repeated without any consequences on men, on gay men. Talking about this crime in relation in the context of a gay men, I think that makes it even harder.
Totally. And then also on top of that, in a funny way, a man talking about it, traditionally we've seen things happening a lot more quicker, and people reacting to things if a man said it happened, so we need to take it a bit more seriously. I'm not saying that's true, but I'm sort of making a light-hearted joke about, like, things only happen when men come out and say this is a problem. Like, if men got periods every month, or endometriosis, this shit would be solved fucking quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear what you mean. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is just such a. It's a wider issue, It's all about abuse of power, and really, it comes down to toxic masculinity again at the end of the day. Because again, the perpetrators of these crimes are 99% men.
I should also include young men who have formed friendships with older men who aren't gay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so it's important to mention that, because, like, that brings me back to you starting to have that conversation with this person. If you're a young man and you've got a football coach who you get on really well with, you've got a swim coach who you get on really well with, or you've met a friend of your father or an uncle, like, it happens all the time. And don't, for anybody watching this, don't fool yourself into thinking, well, it's a young gay man thing. It's not. This is widespread, and we need to be talking about it more. And I really appreciate you coming out and having this conversation.
It is very widespread. It's actually, it's really shocking how I've connected with so many other people in the last few weeks by coincidence and not via this video, who also were groomed. And it seems almost like there's a wave of it happening now for some reason. I know of 3 more people who have been groomed by big celebrities just recently.
But also, because you're talking about it,
Yeah, of course. But
And also, I think there people maybe are starting to feel, I hope, like they can come forward. And I do think social media has a part to play in that. And I do often wonder and worry about this drive to shut down social media platforms. I don't think that's coming from a good place, no matter what we're being told. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Do you think there's a lack of language or framework around this experience for adult male victims? And we've kind of touched on it, so I presume the answer is yes.
yeah, well, when I first started Googling, realizing what was happening to me, when I Googled grooming, there was only one result initially that was included adults, and that was on the Met Police website. Anything else was focused on children. So I was like, it's confusing, because everywhere else you say it's for kids only, but then you go on the Met website and it can affect adults as well. But then when you Google adult grooming, is when you find all the adult grooming stuff, and it's like it shouldn't be necessary to type adult. It's like you don't type adult rape, or it's why is there differentiation between, because it is literally the same crime, just applied to a different age group. And I don't know why being a certain age or of a certain age changes the dynamic of the same crime that has been committed. That in itself is already victim blaming, because it's like, because you're a certain way, may it be age or demographic or whatever, if it happens to you, it's a crime. But if you know what I mean?
Totally.
Because yeah,
I would.
it's a crime,
There's
regardless
one
of
thing.
the age.
There's one thing I started noticing from
Mm.
working in this area and talking to people, and looking at the media, with a particular, almost like a cynical view, and especially around the reporting of what's happening in Palestine by different media organizations. And I think what you're talking about is right. But I think it's really important that we look at and we scrutinize which language
Mm.
different mainstream media platforms are using to describe things.
Yeah.
Because we talk about, and it's really normal for me and you to talk in a generalized way about the language around. But the language around something comes from the media. It comes from journalists. It comes from headline writers. It comes from
Mm.
editors. So we really do have to be very careful and look at, and that's how you find, say, for instance, I don't know, we will speak about looking for journalists and wanting to speak to journalists. That's how you find your allies.
Mm.
When you see somebody writing about something and they're using language that seems to fit, as opposed to, as you said, like already victim blaming before. So I do think that journalists, media organizations, look at how the BBC talk, for instance, about Palestine in a
Yeah.
totally different way to Al Jazeera would, when they
Yeah.
talk about, like, the loss of life as opposed to murder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
The
upsetting.
deaths have occurred of Palestinian men. They've
I
never
know
been
exactly what
murdered.
I know exactly what you mean, and it's been infuriating me. It's made me stop read a lot of major news outlets, because
So
yeah, it's just,
yeah, but
again,
but,
it's
but
very similar to
once you see it
how do
though.
I put your finger on it, but you're being brainwashed without even realizing. But it
Mm,
takes someone to really look twice to see, oh, wait, that's what you're doing. You're manipulating me into thinking this person's life was lost when actually they were murdered, just like the other people that were also murdered.
mm.
Yeah,
Why is
I'm
this?
with you on that, Keith. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is this journalist? Why is this media outlet? Why are they saying sexual assault when what happened was a rape? Yeah,
Yeah.
So we really just, as members of the public,
Mm.
need to just. It is that sort of like, the language around. We say that, and actually, no. Let's be really specific. Who is saying what, and how are they describing this assault?
Yeah.
How are they describing this murder? And
Yeah.
let's, like, look at the reasons and what are they trying to cover, and what's behind this reasoning, and why have they taken the decision. I think that's, on a sort of a side note, a very interesting thing for us all to do. Um, you you've done this and you've taken the steps. You've done this and you've spoken on your own platforms.
Mm.
Actually, just let me know, how do people follow you if they're on TikTok and Instagram? Just in case I forget again.
So it's I have to spell out my name because it's very complicated and very long, and it has a lot
Very,
of
very complicated.
letters. So my first name is Aljoscha, so it's Aljosca, and my surname is Q for Quebec, U for unicorn,
Oh,
O for Oxford, double S for sugar. So that's my handle on both.
QUO double S. So spell your first name out again.
A for
ALJ.
Alpha,
Yeah.
Alpha Lima. J
J.
for
J
Jack.
for Jack. Yeah.
O for Oxford, S for Sierra, C for Charlie, H for Hotel, A for Alpha. Aljoscha.
Aljoscha.
Yeah.
Ali for short, but Aljoscha. ALJOSCHA. And then it's QUO double S.
Double O and double S. I think that's where people always get it wrong.
QU double O. You gotta
O and double
look, you
S.
can have the double S or the double O. You gotta have a double
Nope.
O and
I
a
can
double
have
S.
it all, and I'm not gonna have anyone tell me otherwise.
Okay. You seem to really want it. Okay, so ALJOSCHAQU
Yes, perfect.
is your name. We'll call you
Thank you.
Ali, and people will find you on TikTok and Instagram. But you spoke on your Instagram and your TikTok platforms. You decided, I'm going to come out and I'm going to start talking about this because, like, a lot of the time it happens, and I have some experience in this kind of thing where you just can't actually physically hold on to it anymore. And when you feel isolated and your friends have turned, you feel like your friends aren't the place you can go. It's just something you physically have to do, and a lot of the time it saves people's lives. This is and like, so we should not further shame them for coming out and being vulnerable and speaking about these things. I mean, it was very generous and brave of you. I'm even saying that I don't necessarily think that's people's motives at the time. It's like, I need to say this out loud. But how did you balance that then with your own well-being? You know, how are you looking after yourself?
Well, I've struggled all my life with depression and anxiety because I've come from an abusive childhood. My parents were abusive to each other. So I've just in the last couple of years, I would say, I really found happiness for the first time in my life and started really finding myself and feeling really great and positive every day. Waking up with a smile on my face every morning and already wondering what exciting things are going to happen that day. So that's a feeling I've had for a long time now. Well, it sort of got dampened now by this little incident, but I'm still not going to let it, get me off my track. So I try to do something nice for myself every day. I get flowers and little things. I make sure that my place is always nice and tidy so that I feel comfortable. And I don't put pressure on myself. If I don't want to do something, I just don't do it. So I just put myself first right now, and I do whatever makes me happy. That at the moment right now is just going for a blade in the park because I roller skate. I took on roller skating because I didn't get to see my friends. And I want to say at this point again, this is nothing against my friends. I'm not saying that I have terrible friends. What I'm saying is it's so scary because even though I thought I had the best friends ever, this man in a way was still able to make them turn on me. And that's what I really want people to understand. But yeah, other than that, I'm really looking after myself. I'm eating and being physically active while rollerblading, so it's all good. My sleep pattern is a bit out of control right now, so I'm just napping whenever I fall asleep, but I don't really have a sleep pattern anymore.
I'm a big fan of the naps myself, so don't knock them.
I sleep when I'm tired,
Hey, I used to say as an excuse to keep going out drinking, I'd say I'll sleep when I'm dead. Now I say I'll sleep when I'm going to sleep in an hour because I need a nap.
I don't drink anymore, by the way. This is another thing. I've been sober for almost 2 years.
Really helpful to you in this situation.
Very much. And this is also, all of these factors together are what made me say, look, if I'm not strong enough to confront the situation heads on now, then I'll never be. And that's why I said, okay, I don't have a job to lose. I just said, okay, let's make the best out of this and try and win something with this. And if it means putting my own life and reputation at risk, I don't mind. Because I know
but the win is sometimes your own well-being, and maybe one other person sees this and it prevents something happening for them.
Exactly, and I feel like that is already happening, and I know that this is already happening. So that feels very rewarding. In a way.
Good.
And yeah, as you said,
and you have the cat as well, which I should point out.
Yes, where is he?
Well.
Oh, he's sleeping. He's sleeping, but I'm gonna go grab him. It should be 1 minute.
Oh yeah, you work away.
I can still hear you.
So just Ali's name again is Aljoscha
CHA. Sorry.
CHA. I say because I'm Irish. CHA.
Of course you do. Okay, of course you do.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's good. Because it won't all be just Irish people watching this.
You good?
And I know that you're going to post about some crowdfunding you want to do, and that people, if they follow you, they can donate to your crowd fund, because you want to sort of put some money together to make sure that you can continue talking about this, help other people, etc. And also you're going to put up some of your art for people. So people who donate money, you're going to say, I'll do you a nice picture. And you are quite a good artist. Do you want to show me?
Well, I like to think so. Yes. So my idea is to open a crowdfunder. A lot of people recommended it to me as a reaction to the video they saw. It would massively help just to take that weight off my mind. And my idea is to reward everyone who donates with a personalized drawing, either of them or of a friend or whoever they want me to draw for them.
Don't say everyone. That will be the big stress in your life, is drawing all those pictures. Just say, the first 10 people to donate more than £50 or something, because that's it.
I won't sign anything for now. I won't sign anything, but I will try and reward everyone.
No, dude, have an amount. Have a cutoff point.
So this is my work. These are just, portrait sketches. I wouldn't be sending these physically to you either. So I would
just
send you a picture, send you a photo.
Amazing.
And then once everything is settled and I might have some more money to pay
postage. God. That's my favorite.
Then I would be very happy to send those to you, the original drawings to you as well.
If you sent him a stamped addressed envelope, that's excellent. Are these people you know, or is this people in your head?
Depends. So some people I know. It all varies. I'm trying to get away a lot from drawing from photo reference, which is something I used to do quite a lot. But now, when I see someone with an interesting face, wherever it is, could be on a supermarket or on a tube, I ask them if it's okay to snap a photo and draw them, and that way you kind of get a story, and you get to meet people, which is lovely. And then it's kind of like a real person you're drawing, other than just someone you downloaded off the internet.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
that could be your start doing that on Instagram.
That was what I was doing.
That's what you were doing
up until I encountered a certain man who
took the wind out of your
I don't really enjoy drawing. I made a drawing of this person too, because he made me believe that he was going to buy it off me. And the joy on his face when I showed it to him and he said, "Thanks for the gift." Yeah, and he manipulated me into believing that he was going to buy it off me, because he walked me through his house saying, "Look, they made this, so I bought it. Oh, they made this, so I bought it." Oh, he enjoyed that little inflicting that little pain.
We all know people like that. I've encountered people like that when you've done something, and they're like, "Oh, thanks for the gift." You're like,
It wasn't a gift, but yeah, take it.
Fucking arsehole. And now I can't say anything.
It's gonna have a whole new meaning, the artwork now.
Yeah. Have you bought the dartboard yet? So I know you're reaching out to journalists. Has it been hard to find somebody other than myself, what's the reaction been like to you talking to journalists about
So
this?
I reached out to journalists in the beginning when I first realized what was happening to me. That's when I reached out, but I was ignored pretty much everywhere. And then I stopped reaching out to journalists and I just started getting in touch with therapists, charities. And because I'd already reported the crime to the police as well, and they weren't really willing to look into it for whatever reason. I got in touch with various charities to be like, can you help me get this case moving, because nothing I seem to be able to do or say seems to, move anything.
I do remember you saying about talking to the police, and they had a conversation with you, and then they said we just need more victims to come forward, and I was like,
exactly.
What? It was like a dead guy. Well, we just need more dead guys to come forward before we start looking into this crime. We just need more burgled houses to come forward before we.
Exactly.
Absolute balderdash.
It's exactly what I said to them on the phone. I was like, oh, it's just a bit pointless.
Has anybody else had their bike stolen?
Process.
We'll look into it then.
And yeah, again, if the only way for this crime to ever be punishable is for loads and loads and loads of victims to come forward, but at the same time, the crime is the crime that most people don't even know it's been committed on them, even though it is, like, I'm not saying the effects aren't real, people just don't know where they're coming from, the panic attacks, the sleepless nights, the constantly looking over your shoulder.
Shame.
Mm.
I mean, and I'd have to say it seems to be a thing where the police or the Gardaí in Ireland have, have decided on this special rule that if the person is well known, there has to be more victims. Whereas if you're going into a police station and you're saying this man just approached me on the street and did this, or this happened and this my neighbor did this, they'll definitely look into it. But as soon as it's
he has to do it to a few more people before.
Can you do a bit of investigating?
What's the body count?
Yeah. You find out. You go out away and find out. Do our job for us. Find out if he's done this to anybody else. Come back to us with a few names, and then we might look into it.
Yeah.
Bullshit. What would you say to somebody listening or watching now who might be in a similar situation but hasn't made sense of it, is listening to this or hasn't told anybody, doesn't know where to turn, is feeling a bit isolated, is on their own? Would you give them advice, and what would the advice be?
Trust your gut. Always trust your gut. If it feels funny, it's probably funny, and not in the good funny.
Yeah.
So I think that's my main advice, and this is advice that I think I could also extend to life in general. I think it's something you should do all the time. Trust your gut. Those feelings in our gut are super important. They are there to warn us. They're there to protect us most of the time, but also a lot of the time they seem much worse than they really are. So even if something seems scary, like for example now this me coming out, terrified for days I was walking around with this being like, what the hell do I do? But at the end of the day, if you just feel your feelings and give in to them and let them flow, just take hold of your body for a minute or two, then you'll realize it's not actually that bad. They'll pass, and just trust them.
Yeah, trust yourself, trust your gut. Try not to cloud it. Try to keep things clear. Maybe don't try not to drink too much for a while, or just sit with your feelings. Try not to chase the feelings away with anything.
Yeah, don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. If a person in power makes you feel that way, they know exactly what they're doing. It's not an accident.
Yeah, you haven't been stupid.
It's not because they're autistic and don't know what they're doing, or because none of that. They know exactly what they're doing. So if somebody's doing this to you right now and you're unsure, just cut them out.
So then for people who are around someone who's telling them this, friends, family, what should they be doing instead of retreat? What would you have preferred rather than this retreat in fear or denial?
I would have preferred to really be sat down and to be told, look, Ali, just tell me everything that happened from start to finish in a timeline, because that's also the only way to sort of tell this story for it to make sense. If you really tell it from start to finish and how everything happened, how one thing led to the other. And that way, if you see the bigger picture, it makes sense. If you only have snippets of the story, and you only have those snippets from a time when the victim himself didn't even know what was going on, then give them a chance to really, really tell their truth and what really happened to them, even if it's weeks after they make the realization.
It's really important. We talk about in the world of mental health, we talk about, uh, oh, people need to talk. It's good to talk and, speak up and all. It's much more important that people learn how to listen. You need to listen, you need to hold space. And what holding space means is that you listen without prejudice. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You just hold the space. You just wait. You just let them speak. You're not looking to fix it. You're not looking to correct them. You're not looking to explain to them how they might have been, that might have been a stupid thing they did. That you might have been, you might be incorrect in your. None of that is important. Your view and your prejudice and what you're bringing bring nothing to the table. Hold the space. Let them talk. That's all you have to do.
Exactly. Your experience or your opinion on my experience doesn't really matter right now. All that matters is that I tell you what happened to me.
Yeah, that's it. It's the easiest job in the world, holding space. So what? So you've got you're doing you've got the rollerblading, you've got the art, you've got your cat to mind, obviously, and then obviously, do you do some meditation or any of that kind of stuff? Is there anything else that kind of keeps you?
So I do, well, rollerblading, to be honest,
Yeah,
it's my
well, yeah,
meditation,
that is your meditation,
it
right?
really is, because you just go around in a circle, and at one point you don't even know what you're looking at anymore. It's just you're floating. So I love that feeling. It really encourages flow. It's very great for, just letting the mind go. That's my meditation. And I love music, and I go for a walk every day, and then for a roller skate actually I go roller skating twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And then in between, I usually go for a walk or do some admin bits, some other stuff that I need to do.
And if there was one thing, then finally, is there one thing you could get society to understand about grooming? What would it be?
That it's invisible until it's too late. Yeah.
Good. Don't need to say any more. So, I mean, that's it really. Ali, the only thing left for me to say is thank you very much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate that you trusted me to share it with. I'm not even going to use words like brave, but I just really appreciate it. It's
Thank
and
you.
I also feel like I can. You might not be aware of it, but there's a bit of a journey going on for you here, which is bringing you somewhere. And I know that you're following that. You're following your gut, and it will take you somewhere. So just trust it. Maybe you weren't in the right place for a while, and that's separate to what you experienced with that person that we're talking about. But
Yeah.
you're getting to where you need to be, and even when you talk about your father and making that decision, and then coming on here and speaking about, we didn't get into it, but that terrible sexual assault, rape that happened to you, even just being able to, and I'm not saying it's casual, but just being able to include that in a conversation is huge. And
Thank you.
you're taking steps, huge strides, huge steps, and you're following your gut, and you're going the right way. So just be cool, keep doing what you're doing.
I tried to. Thanks so much, Keith. And thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me the platform.
Yeah, no problem.
It's been amazing. And also, I want to point out, thank you for your amazing level of empathy. I've felt so safe speaking to you the entire time. So
Good.
understood, heard, and valued. And that coming from a cis, white, straight man.
Not all men. Not all men.
Terrible man.
Not all men.
So I applaud you. You give me hope.
I have to work extra hard.
You know, we all should be doing. You know, like I'm also ignorant to other things that go on in the world that I don't know about. But I think we all have to always keep an open mind.
That's it.
And
Yeah,
look
that's
further.
it. Look beyond your own prejudice and experience.
100%.
Ali, listen, go and enjoy your evening, and thanks a million. And we'll chat again,
right.
and I'll post this and all that kind of stuff. And best of luck with everything. And yeah, I appreciate it. Goodbye, and thank you for watching. And listen, if you're watching this, and I'm just going to chuck Ali out there because he probably wants to get some fresh air or something that was big. If you're watching this and you've been affected by some of the things we've been talking about, like, well, I have to go back to Ali in a sec because he's got the cat there.
There we go. Bye.
The real star of the show. The real star of the show. Hold on there, Ali. I'll talk to you in a sec. If you're watching this and you were affected by it, or anything about this has triggered something for you, like, find someone you can talk to, and talk to them. And if you are going to talk to somebody you're not sure, like, say to them, look, I just need you to listen. Set up the conversation if you can. I need you to just listen, to hold the space. I don't want you to fix anything. Don't really want your opinion on it. I don't want you to tell me what I should have done differently. I just need you to listen. Can you do that? If they say they can't, or if you get into the conversation, you realize they can't, stop talking to them. Because the argument, you're not there to have an argument with them about how they're listening. You have a much bigger fish to fry. Move on to another person and try and have the conversation with them. Because very often what happens is we have conversations with friends, and what happens is then it all becomes about the falling out with the friends. And actually you need this time to focus on the shit that you're dealing with. So ask them up front, can you have this conversation? This is what I need from you right now. Are you capable of that? If they say yes, have the conversation. If 10 minutes into the conversation, it's blatantly obvious that they can't do what you need them to do, stop the conversation, say thanks, I appreciate it, we can't have, I know you're not in the right headspace to have this conversation now, and leave it, and then go and find somebody else who you think will have that conversation with you. Because that's what we do. We just end up, it becomes about the friend that wouldn't listen, and frankly, it's about you right now, and you finding someone you can talk to. And it's the same for therapists. It's the same for a doctor. You go to a doctor and you want to talk to them. If they're not listening to you, or you don't like, your gut is telling you something, leave and say, I don't believe that you're the right person for me. We have power. We have autonomy, and we have agency over ourselves, and we should use that. And if we don't feel comfortable and our gut is telling us something, we should leave. And that's okay. And we're not people pleasing anymore. We're doing what's right for ourselves. And that doesn't mean you're rude. That just means you have agency over what you need in that moment. I'll leave you with that. And of course, you can contact us here on Moth, and we will try and give you a platform. Have a chat with us. If we think you need a platform, we'll listen and we'll give you a platform. Have a good day. I hope the sun is shining where you are. Goodbye.